IVM.
This episode of Know Your Kanoon was recorded outdoors, so please excuse the quality of audio.
Welcome to Know Your Kanoon. This is Amber from Corpus Legal, and in today's episode, we'll be doing a little bit of educational insight into some of the concepts which are mentioned in our Indian Penal Code, and one of those being the case of defamation. Now, in today's times when the world is so proactive and we are dealing on daily basis with so many individuals, where do we really understand what an injury or an insult is, or how do we define our reputation? Because the fight today in the country is that by common citizens is where people keep saying that my reputation has been damaged and it has caused me some kind of insult and injury. So just let's look at what law really feels and says about defamation, and how did this idea origin, and how we can use this particular section in preventing ourselves from any personal injuries or insults that may be added to our characters. Indeed, the law per se gives protection to a man's reputation, which, as we all know, is more dearer to oneself than anything else. It also is an inspiration for people to do big things in life, like acquire fame, name, and also being every walk of life. It plays a major bulwark and a standing posture. A person nonetheless thus requires, protection of one's reputation, honor, integrity, character, as much as the right to enjoyment of property, health, liberty, and a number of other privileges. Thus, let's look at what the definition of defamation is. 99 of the Indian Penal Code defines defamations in two ways, which is whoever by words, either spoken or intended to be read, or by signs or by visible representations, makes or publishes any imputation concerning any person intending to harm, or knowing or having reason to believe that such imputation will harm the reputation of such person, is said to have caused defamation. There are four different explanations which also have been appended under section 499, and all of those law students who are listening now, they would know it much better. In the case of defamation to a layman, let me just reiterate or to all our common citizens by giving an example between three parties. Let's say one character A says that Z is an honest man. He never stole B's watch. Now, it's a statement which has been made. However, it has been made intending to cause it to be believed that Z did steal B's watch. So, see, the intention has to be seen here, that if this statement was made to indirectly hint at someone that indeed he has stolen the watch, this is definitely defamation. Second form of defamation, again, another example would be a person is asked who stole B's watch. That person points to another character C, intending to cause it to be believed that C did steal B's watch. This is defamation. Again, to be seen here is that the intention has to be very clear that the individual is causing imputations which indirectly refer or cause personal injury to that person or loss of reputation. Third example I'll narrate, and it's very common in our law books also, but I'll again reiterate for everybody and for our listeners that supposedly one character A draws a picture of another character Z running away with B's watch, intending it to be believed in such a way that Z did steal B's watch. This is also defamation. So drawing of caricatures, pointing, any such actions, and specifically words which have been spoken out in a way in order to derogate someone or to cause personal injury, they all fall within the ambit of defamation. Now, what we have seen is the basic crux of what defamation is in a very simple manner with some examples. I'll now go into detail in explaining the ingredients and the content of defamation. There are 10 exceptions and 4 explanations, as I said, and I mentioned that law students will be able to relate to that. But for commoners, these 10 exceptions are that any of the acts which are done in any of these 10 exceptions, then they do not tantamount to defamation. I will be taking them forward as we proceed through the course of defamation and understanding the ingredients of defamation. Core ingredients of defamation, as I explained, are the following. First and foremost, making or publishing of an imputation concerning a person. I'll come to what it is. Secondly, such imputation should have been made in such a way, either by signs, by visible representations, by words, either spoken or written. Thirdly, the said imputation should have been made with intent to harm, or knowing or having reason to believe that it will harm the reputation of such person or defame him. The section is aimed at protection of the reputation, integrity, and honor of the persons. Thus, if we look at the definition, it basically contains three very most important elements, which are the person, his reputation, and the harm to reputation of the person with necessary mens rea, which means a guilty mind. Now, we've been hearing this word imputation again and again. Let's look at what imputation really means. Imputation implies an accusation which is something more than an expression of suspicion. Thus, I may be in self doubt and I might be suspicious of someone, but imputation is a step ahead of suspicion, where I'm correctly implying that the particular act has been done. Some of the examples of imputations, which have held to be defamatory, I'll give you some examples are if you call someone a drunkard, if you call someone a gunda, if you call somebody of a loose character, a illegitimate person, so forth, so on, so many words, one who is bankrupt or insolvent with a bad intention, or, comments against the deceased in front of the relatives, etc. There are so many other such words. The words such as coward, dishonest man, they are all considered to be, a part of the series of defamation and an imputation. How you convey this imputation is also not of any concern. So, just to say that is, it might be, a question, it might be a conjecture, an explanation, irony. For example, if I may say in a negative way that, no, this individual does not eat chicken, where I know he does eat, sitting in a group of people or individually in a room where it is possible that, the individual does consume chicken, but I'm saying no, he does not. Just to imply that he does is also defamation. Also accusing someone of thievery in their face or in presence of public, where I know that the individual does not commit thievery, and implying it with strong words or actions tantamounts to defamation. The so-called word tana, which is being used so commonly in the Indian language, and we use it daily amongst ourselves, whether it is fun way or the otherwise, it does tantamount to defamation if it is done with the intent, attached to it. After imputation, the other most important ingredient which we were reading through was that this imputation should be concerning any person. Thus, what it means is the words which are said or the imputation which is cast must contain an imputation concerning some particular person or persons whose identity can be established. Like a newspaper, if I accuse a newspaper of doing something, that does not tantamount to defamation. If I am doing it against the publisher, the editor, and so forth, others, then it tantamounts to defamation. But against a newspaper, it is not. For defamation, it need not be one single individual, it could be a group of individuals. So let's say if one party insinuates something, let's say person A insinuates and writes down, B publishes, and C expresses his opinion on the same, and the identity is established of all three, then they all tantamount to be liable for defamation. Another way of saying it is that in case one dictates, one composes, and the third one is involved in writing what has been dictated or which has been spoken or composed of, then that individual shall be held liable for defamation, and all of these collectively will be held liable for defamation. Destroying or murdering a man's reputation, by making such orchestrated comments, remarks, or as I explained earlier, that, orchestrating, composing, writing, and whether it is an individual or a group of individuals, as I was reiterating earlier, it is equivalent to murdering a man. And all three of them or all group of individuals who have involved in doing this are equally guilty than one through whom it has been conveyed. So to give you an example, let's say if three friends A, B, C are engaged in defaming D. So A says something about D, B, the friend of A, writes down that, and C nods in affirmative and says, yes, what you have written and said is correct against D, which in turn leads D to do some deed where his reputation is lost, or where he is maligned in such a way, or libel or slander is caused. I'll come to the definition of these as well. Then in that case, all three, A, B, and C, are equally liable for the amount of defamation they have caused, and not one. Similarly, another example of this would be in case of a publication which is made, if you see the publisher, he is not the maker, creator, or the owner of the respective content which is being published. He just merely publishes what is being given to him because he's an employee of the employer. Thus, in those cases, it's an exception. You cannot hold them to be liable because they are not orchestrating, making, writing, or deciding the content. There has to be a reasonable knowledge that by doing this particular act an insult will be caused, which should be there, and the intention should be thoroughly clear, then only will it tantamount to defamation. One of the most essential parts of or ingredients of defamation is that there has to be a publication of some kinds for that person to be subjugated to defamation, which means that the defamatory matter must be published. That is, it should be communicated to some person other than the person about whom it is addressed. Again, explain that it literally means that in case A and B are sitting and these are the two individuals in a room and they get into an alternative argument which leads to some kind of impunities being thrown at each other, but there is no third person to hear them out, then it would not tantamount to defamation if A says something about B or B reiterates something about A. It has to go public. There has to be a publication of what has been said, and there should be other people present where this particular act has been committed. Some examples of defamation would necessarily be, if you write something which is, indicting or writing or maligning or as a slander or a libel against an individual on a postcard and posting it out to other people. In case a letter has been written to a particular clerk, any case of any printing on a paper, distributing, broadcasting, they all form part of publications. Publication of a defamatory matter in newspaper has to be seen very closely. It's a very interesting piece of, explanation which has been accorded under the Indian Penal Code. In the matters of defamation, the position of a newspaper is in no way different from that of a member of the public in general. What this means is the responsibility in either of the cases is the same. Thus, the newspaper, since it has a medium and reaches out to a lot of people, it has the same responsibility as a person. Thus, any communication which is made by newspaper in a bad way against an individual is equivalent to causing loss of reputation. Thus, the publisher of a newspaper is responsible for defamatory matter published in the newspaper, whether he knew the contents of such paper or not. Has to be seen here is there is a difference between press and there is a difference between newspaper publication. As I had reiterated earlier that in case individuals of press do it because they've been asked to do something where they are working under the orders of their employer, whereas on a newspaper the publication is made well knowing what is being published, the publisher will be held liable. And what has to be seen here is the difference. In the press, whatever is being said or done, or the mechanical compositor has been given directions by the employers to do that in particular manner. Another important factor or ingredient of defamation again is there must be an intention to harm the reputation of the complainant or the knowledge that the imputation will harm the reputation of such person. Whether an actual harm happens or not happens, the result is not taken into calculation. The act is taken into consideration. Say if tomorrow XYZ publishes about IVM in a particular way and individually names me as one of the hosts and writes something about me in one of the articles in a newspaper, whether that article causes harm to me subsequently or not will not be considered as an excuse for not defamation. That would definitely tantamount to defamation, and I am liable to bring case against particular such activity. And what harm really means in the legal scenario for all our friends on the show is that an imputation on a man's character, and I'm reading from the book, made and expressed to others so as to lower him in their estimation. Thus, anything which lowers somebody merely in their own estimation does not constitute defamation. It has to be in the eyes of the public. So let's look at, lastly, I'll come to the last ingredient, which is, let's look at what is character and reputation and how defamation operates around this. Character is what a person actually is and what he does, while reputation is what neighbors and others may think about that individual. So to give you an example, a man may have, in fact, good character, yet he may suffer from a very bad reputation. A man's opinion of himself cannot be called as his reputation. A man has actually no reputation to himself, and therefore communication of any matter which is defamatory in nature to the person defamed is not publication. To the contrary, I'll give an example. If A, knowing his partner who is his wife B, suspects her on her chastity or so forth, so on, such other things on the wedding night, and then resorting to mudslinging and character assassination would tantamount to defamation. In the next episode, I'll be taking up the exceptions. As I said, there are 10 exceptions to defamation where if you fall under any of these, it does not tantamount to defamation, and the explanations attached to the definition. Please write in to me in case of any queries on defamation. Please write into me in case some portion of the definition I could not have explained more thoroughly and you would want some more explanation. I can definitely send in examples. To all the students out there, please write into me in case you feel I've missed out something in the definitions. And all our listeners and those who are interested in law and all the students as well, KD Gore is a good book for reference. It's a commentary where you can read through what this section really means. So you can refer that in case there has been some misunderstanding or I have missed some portion of the defamation and the definition regarding it.
Thank you for listening to Know Your Kanoon. For more queries and questions, please contact me at contact@corpuslegal.in. Catch Know Your Kanoon every week on the IVM website or the app or anywhere you get your podcast from.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.
Did you know that Parsis in Mumbai, instead of being left at the Tower of Silence after they die, are now cremated? And why? Because a cow fell sick in the early 1990s. Did you know that the smog in Delhi is caused by something that farmers in Punjab do and that there's no way to stop them? Did you know that there wasn't one gas tragedy in Bhopal but three? One of them was seen but two were unseen. Did you know that many well-intentioned government policies hurt the people they're supposed to help? Why was demonetization a bad idea? How should GST have been implemented? Why are all our politicians so corrupt when not all of them are bad people? I'm Amit Verma, and in my weekly podcast, The Seen and the Unseen, I take a shot at answering all these questions and many more. I aim to go beyond the seen and show you the unseen effects of public policy and private action. I speak to experts on economics, political philosophy, cognitive neuroscience, and constitutional law so that the insights can blow not only my mind, but also yours. The Seen and the Unseen releases every Monday. So do check out the archives and follow the show at seenunseen.in. You can also subscribe to The Seen and the Unseen on whatever podcast app you happen to prefer.